order. Welcome to Choose to Lead with Capability Group. I'm Annie Kennedy, and I'm really excited to bring a conversation to you with Kat Kennedy, the Chief Experience Officer at Degreed. And at Capability Group, we have recently partnered with Degreed and really excited about that and the opportunities it brings to our region as well. Welcome, Kat.
Thank you. It's so good to be with you. It's 2 p.m.
Oh, so right, 2 p.m.
It's still a good time of day. Yep.
Yeah, that's nice. You're all well warmed up.
Yeah.
So I guess, first of all, it would be great just to hear your version of how do you describe Degreed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so human capital management is the space that we're in, working closely with talent management and learning management. And all of those systems are built just for that, for the management side of the equation, which is a very important piece. But the other side is the people, the employees that are being served, and they need more than just that management in order to navigate their careers and all of the disruption that's coming to work as we know it. What they need is insights, empowerment, and access to opportunities. And that's where Degreed comes in. So we connect all learning and talent development and internal mobility opportunities to understanding of who those people are so that they can get put to work to where the business needs them most. And we do it in one simple, fluid interface that's all powered by the skills of those people.
Nice. And as we know, that's becoming critical, isn't it, with the future of work, or the now really of work. And what's your story? How did you get to be in the role of Chief Experience Officer? And what does that even mean?
Yes. Yeah. So my role, I'm president and CXO, Chief Experience Officer. What does it mean? It means that product and technology, really anything that has to do with the platform side of the equation in the company, I get to support and work with them. So it's a very made up title, but those are some of the funnest ones. Just hoping to speak to the parts of the business that I'm so lucky to support. And I've been with Degreed since the beginning. So I joined the founders back in 2012. So coming up on a decade at the company, which is pretty awesome. How I got connected with them was just serendipitous. I was working at another company as a front-end developer. And one of the designers with whom I worked got introduced to David Blake, one of our founders. And Dave told him the type of skills that he needed as he got this thing off of the ground. And that designer said, that's not me. That actually sounds like Kat. Let me introduce you to her. And as Dave explained the world as it should be, if we were successful and pushing forward our mission, I was all in. And what he described was just a world where people are recognized in real time for the skills that they have, not the credentials or where they went to school. It's instead, what can you do now? How can we apply those skills to the work now? And so that's what brought me to Degreed. It's what keeps me at Degreed, and just love what we're able to do and the companies that we're able to work with.
I love that. Well, first of all, there's such a clear purpose by the sounds of it. That's very motivating and engaging. But I also love that it was the clarity of your skills that got you.
I know, it's a nice, I love how it worked out that way as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think I'm kind of curious around what have you noticed, because you're right, I think at the right time, right? That's, although I say right time, it's been shaping for a long time and it's been growing hugely, hasn't it? Which must feel like your baby. You've been there for quite a number of years, and a really critical growth period by the sounds of it. What are you picking up around when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, we talk about the future of work, we talk about actually the critical need to be clear on skills, but what does it mean around leadership that wraps around that? What's your observations? And you must get incredible insight actually in organizations that you partner with, that just through the nature of what you deliver, there must be some beautiful insights. What are you picking up around leadership?
I feel really lucky to get to work with the just clients and partnership that we do. And what's beautiful about all of those interactions is that all of us are trying to solve for the same thing. We all want to give more clarity as to both what is expected of people, but also what needs to be done in order to stay ahead of all of the changes that now happen at such a rapid pace. So as we think about the future of work, I hear future and it's unknown. It's anticipation of things that are still quite fuzzy. And so anytime we talk about future of work, we're speaking towards this ambiguous expected change. And how do we prepare for things that we don't fully understand? And that's really what's at the heart of all of those conversations, is how do we get our hands around what is unknown? And that feels like leadership at large, right? So often we're just for like looking in the dark, feeling things out, articulating what we discover and understand as we come to understand it. But at the scale that some of these organizations work, it's not good enough anymore. That leads to reactive adjustments instead of proactive. And so how can we be more proactive as we approach the future? That's what's at the core of everything that we do, both at Degreed and also with our clients. And so I think how the pandemic really brought that into focus is too many of us were reactive to that moment. We weren't proactive and ready for a sudden shift. And so it's now incited a beautiful paranoia as to what will be the next massive change and how can we make sure that we aren't disrupted when it comes. And so what do we do? I think, that always seems so daunting when we talk about the future and unknowns. But if we boil them all back, we can get to a better understanding if we just know people and we know more about what's required to do the work. If we're clear on strategy, and if we know the people that we have to accomplish it, those are two things that are very actually hard to get to, but they're simple. They're two simple parts of the equation. And so what we do at Degreed is try every day to work with clients to help them get to the understanding of both of those. What's the work that's required? And who are the people that we have that can accomplish that work? And I know it likely seems simplified, a little too oversimplified, but as I think about the future of work, whether that means automation or what does work even mean as we evolve, because jobs and roles don't seem to be their thing anymore. It's more dynamic and agile. To get to those answers, we just need those two pieces of the equation. If we try to get to the answers without it, we're going to be fumbling in the dark for too long.
I like the simplicity. I like the clarity that brings, because that's what we strive for in this ambiguity, right? It's just that little bit of light. That's something to strive towards. And I like that know your people and that clarity around the strategy and what we're trying to achieve here. And it sounds simple, but like you say, there's way more complexity wrapped around it. And there's a mindset shift required, right? Because there's an element of what you're describing as well is giving power to people in a different way than perhaps historically we've had around who owns learning or who owns my career. And, there's just a real shift in mindset that's not always easy as well. And I think you're right, the last year has been really interesting around the need to tap into all of the strengths and all of the talent to sort of enable us to know what is that little step that we need to take right now. What have you noticed around that? What have you noticed in your own learning for your own leadership in the last year, given we've had this wonderful kind of, I guess, experience that's thrown us right into exactly what you're describing? Yeah,
what an experience it's been. The lesson over and over that I've learned in the past year is just, it's people first. It's always people first. And I know we always say that as leaders, that people come first, but that has been true in a very real way, because everyone is dealing with very difficult things and they're trying to do their job on top of it. And so humanity has just come front and center, that is what is to be prioritized first and foremost all of the time. And so really getting to know people, what they're facing, how you can relieve some of the just ambiguity that they could potentially face at work, because they're already facing so much ambiguity at home. That's really been my resounding lesson, is just don't ever let the work to be done be more important than the people to be served, and just always put people first. And often this year, it's also meant when we are doing that so much as leaders, when we're working hard to put others first and to think about them, we deplete and get exhausted ourselves. And so a reminder that like humanity is not just about our teams, it's also about ourselves, and taking a moment to reset and to breathe and to get your energy back so that you can go back to work and serve people. Those are the two things I've learned over and over and over again this year.
Oh, isn't it interesting, the lessons that we need to learn when they keep being presented to us? And,
yeah.
And that's such a common thing though, isn't it? Like, again, you make it sound so easy that we need to look after ourselves and re-energize ourselves and nourish ourselves. That self-compassion, right, that we need, that we often don't give ourselves permission because we feel that pressure to deliver and the productivity and the busyness, and there's almost the badge of honor that sits with the busyness and cultures at times, and to actually spend time giving to ourselves to enable us to be able to give to others and enable others is so much easier said than done.
It is. It really is.
Yeah, and I think the honesty too. Like I love that your honesty around the need to do that as the awareness. So many are on autopilot and not even seeing the need to be replenishing themselves, and just how we are, I guess, our greatest tool when it comes to our leadership. Yeah.
And I've been grateful for a team too that helps us to recognize it in each other, to rely on those around you to say like, hey, I can tell you're getting tired. Like go take a breath, because we can work ourselves to exhaustion. We can push too hard. But the results then are diluted if we're presenting them when we're exhausted. And so I'm grateful for a team that's there as a support and as a reminder that like, it's okay to step away if you're feeling exhausted and take a breath, and then you can come back stronger than you would have before.
Nice. Having each other's backs, watching out for each other. And I like the word that you used before, humanity. It's becoming critical, isn't it, organizations, bringing the humanity, bringing the, dare I say it, love and compassion and care into the workplace. And it's funny that should be something that's not a comfortable thing to say. But that's when you talk about the fourth industrial revolution, this is something that's going to dial up. As you said before, we get to know our people. It's not purely just skills. It's the whole person that sits around the skills. What have been some of, when you look at your own career, and particularly around leadership and your own journey in leadership, have there been big aha moments for you that has just jolted you and shifted the way that you would see your role as a leader, or even see yourself, if you're willing to share? I mean, that's a good question to ask.
So many. I'm lucky to work with an executive coach who helps me to recognize those lessons when they're happening. And so I'm eternally grateful for his support as I've grown. I think the big lessons that stand out to me are early in my leadership trajectory, making that transition from individual contributor into leader is really, really tough. And there's lots of books written about all of it, but it feels like they're written for once you know how to lead, here's how to lead better, versus completely changing how you operate. And just over and over again, learning that lesson of your job as a leader is not to do the work. Your job as a leader is to surround yourself with people who could do that work better than you could ever do yourselves. And just to make sure that they have what they need in order to do it. Often and early in my leadership career, I would find myself feeling accountable to every tiny thing and micromanaging and not delegating and not giving recognition to those who were trying to step in and do the work. And when I finally saw it in myself, it was this horrifying moment, because when I was working as an individual contributor, I never wanted to work for those leaders. I never wanted to, that's not who helps fulfill you at the end of the day. So that was a big one, is just recognizing, no, my job is actually not to do any of it, but to create the conditions where great work can be done. That was a big lesson. And then the second one is just, you don't have to be right all of the time. You don't have to be the smartest one in the room. Sometimes the best leaders don't have any answers. All they have are really good questions, and they can see where there are problems. So going from being a problem solver, always having the answers, to, hey, what are the biggest things that need attention right now? And who do we have in the room that can put their attention there? That was a big shift for me as well. Just going from, you have to have answers, to no, you just should have questions to get your team to bring the answers to the table.
They're big shifts to make too, aren't they, really?
They are.
Again, you make it sound so simple, but those are really big shifts to make, because we feel our self-worth and what we achieve and the contributions we make and our expertise and our knowledge and our solutions and our ability from best intentions to fix things for people that we care about, that work around us.
Yeah.
Without realizing that, actually, like you say, that realization that you end up becoming this person that you wouldn't want to work for yourself. That's really powerful insights to discover. And again, when you look at the last year and you look at the type of environment, that the uncertainty you were describing before, that we need to surface all of that, from asking the great questions and what we don't have the answers, like you said before, and seeing so many people struggle with that. But the huge learning that's been coming with that is beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
So what are the next focus, do you think, around what you see from your perspective, the focus around leadership, say the next 3 years? What would that be?
The pandemic has brought a massive shift into how work is done. The old ways of working, of being in person all of the time and being able to manage things that way and have relationships because you're in the same room, that's going to never come back in the same way that it was before. So we have to lead as all of us are experiencing a new reality. So getting really comfortable feeling in the dark and not having all of those answers, like, we have to get good at it and not lose the confidence of our teams as we do that. I think that's always such a tough balance to strike, but knowing how to work remotely and hire people that you've never met in person before, and when are the moments that we get in person, I'm excited to see how we figure that out at scale. There have been companies that have managed it well one-off, but now we're seeing massive enterprises approach this change in leadership and ways of work. And I think that's going to put a lot of pressure, especially on line managers, especially on executives to support those managers. And I don't think we're fully prepared for the change. Going remote was forced upon us. Now, what is this hybrid, or where will we end up? The geek in me is just so excited to watch it unfold and to see how it changes, like what we call good leadership and how we support people, because it's going to be a big learning moment across the board. And I see that, and I see people trying to prepare for this without even knowing what the reality is going to be. And what they're doing to prepare is, again, just focusing on those human elements. How do we have good communication? How do we have empathy? How can we make sure that we're honoring well-being? And I love that now leadership, as I see it being taught across so many of these massive companies, they're just focused on what they know, which is, if you can be a good and empathetic human to those around you, you're automatically going to be a better leader, and the rest will come as we figure it out. And I really have appreciated that focus on what have often been called the soft skills of development.
And like you say, there's an element of getting comfortable being uncomfortable as you navigate that, as you try and work that out in this new context, and bringing humanity and that clarity of communication and connection and trust and care when we're so remote, but still trying to work that out. And I like the way you talk about it. There's that tension of being able to do that, but not being able to be so vulnerable that you kind of lose, I guess, a credibility or trust almost. It's kind of that little constant dance across.
It is a dance. Yeah. Yeah. It brings me back to my other big lesson that I've learned as a leader, which is no one ever has it fully figured out.
No.
Ever. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to have it, all the answers. You don't have to fully know. The authenticity in being able to say, I don't know, and I'm figuring it out, but I'm here for you. And like, you have my attention, and we're going to figure this out together. Like, sometimes that's all you can do. And that's actually okay. You don't have to feel like a failure because you didn't have the perfect answer in that moment. So I think we feel like a failure because we think others had it. No, they didn't. They didn't have the perfect answer either.
It's kind of sad how long it takes us to work that out, doesn't it? That we think everyone else has got it together, and then we finally realize actually we're all fundamentally flawed at the end of the day. And you make it sound again so easy, Kat, that you just have to be present for them and to show them that you care and that you value them. But again, in the kind of context that we work in and the pace that we work in and the complexity that we work in, it could be really hard in itself. And I think it's a huge gift when you can be truly present for someone.
I agree.
Yeah, we have a theme for this series of conversations, and the theme is choose to lead. What are your thoughts around that?
I love the word choose because it means you are intentional. You are having an actual effort and you are thinking about doing this thing. So I think leading requires every day, every moment to be intentional about the way you're speaking, the choices that you're making, and accounting for the impact that they're going to have. So choosing to lead to me just means you have intention about what you're doing and there's a concerted effort towards what you're doing. When I find myself getting tired, what I do is I'm just on autopilot. I am just doing what I normally do. I'm not growing. I'm just like, here is Kat, as people know her as a leader. And that's also where I start. I don't believe you're ever stable. You're either getting worse or you're getting better. And so choosing to lead means I will always get better. I will always be on that path to improvement. And I think that just requires intention. Just making the choice every morning, I'm going to be better and I'm doing these things in order to be better, because leadership, it's a choice. It's an action that happens all of the time.
It's an action. It's a continuous process and journey that requires so much inward, but also outward work at the same time. Which is so rewarding in so many ways.
I love the biography of George Washington because he's someone that from a child I looked to as like the leader who had it all figured out. But when you read his letters, there's so much humility and authenticity in him not knowing. He was just making the best decisions he could in the moment with the information that he had, but he knew others were watching him. He knew he had a responsibility to lead. And I love that example of someone who worldwide would be recognized as a great leader, but he was always very open and honest that he didn't know. He was just intentional. He was choosing it. He was trying and he was going to make mistakes, and that was okay because what he needed to do was to lead so that others knew that they could trust that leadership. And so I really appreciate his example. And I think that reflects back to your theme of choose to lead. Choosing to lead doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. It just means you're going to put the effort in.
Oh, I love that. Doesn't mean you have to be perfect, but you put the effort in. As wobbly as that might be at times, but there's an element of you, as you're describing, of the modeling that you're doing, and you're giving permission to others to go there at the same time. So you're kind of lifting the leadership across the whole organization. Yeah, beautiful. Are you feeling, as you've progressed and you've grown and you've moved into, some really senior role, right, in the organization that you're in, do you feel the pressure that comes with that when I hear you describing the letters that Washington wrote and very conscious of people are watching him? Is that something that sits with you a little bit in the role that you're in?
Yes, that's the thing I never fully realized before stepping into leader. I think any leadership, you feel the responsibility of those around you and making sure that they have what they need to succeed. And the more that you grow, the more responsibility that you have. And especially during I know I keep citing it, but during the pandemic, just the responsibility to make sure that people were okay and that we weren't creating more burden on them with the work to be done, anything that we could make easier for them. And it really was this over and over again, recognizing that, no, we are responsible to these people and their livelihoods and so much of their well-being because they spend so much of their life at work. And the more the company grows, that is just exponentially more true. And it also feels very true for the partners and the clients that we serve. You know, they have that engagement and relationship with us for a reason. Making sure that we don't let them down is always at the forefront of our minds. I think across the board, but especially, I know that to be true across the leadership team. And what I've been, again, just honestly surprised by is how much it has meant to me when people from across the team have echoed that back, that oftentimes you feel lonely in leadership and you feel like no one knows how worried you are about them every night. But when they recognize, are you okay? How are you doing? What can I do for you? And you just realize they feel the same responsibility towards everyone else as you do. And so never letting yourself feel isolated in that responsibility or lonely in that leadership, and knowing that the team around you feels the same and they're supporting you in that. Those have been some of the most special moments this year, is when I've been forced to recognize that, because they vocally said as much.
Wow. Yeah. I'm so excited about our partnership with Degreed. You can just hear the alignment to values across the organizations, and there's some genuine heart and there's some genuine intent to really make a difference in people's lives, which is very much about our purpose as well. Mm-hmm. I've really enjoyed connecting with you. I hope we get to do that more often, and to bring your story and your insights to so many. Thank you for making the time. Really appreciate it. Of course,
it's my pleasure. Yeah, and we echo the gratitude for the partnership. We're so excited about the work we're doing and everything we're going to do as we move forward. So, and I can't wait to one day hopefully meet in person.
Yes,
that will be great.
Get on. All right, lovely. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in to Choose to Lead with Capability Group. I'm Annie Kennedy, and been a great honour to have a conversation with Kat Kennedy. Mā te wā.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.